Newton News is brought to you in part by the Village Bank. Your village, your bank.
This week on Newton News, Senator Cream discusses the Student Opportunity Act in front of a crowd at Newton North High School. The Farm Grill Rotisserie held a blindfolded tasting fundraiser to support the Carroll Center for the Blind. And the Newton Chinese Language School celebrates 60 years. Welcome to Newton News for Wednesday, October 30th, 2019. I'm Ethan Plotkin. Get ready for New TV's Decision 2019 starting Tuesday night, November 5th at 7:30 p.m. We will have multiple guests discussing current issues and the future of Newton, as well as the results from Newton's municipal election. So don't forget to vote, and polls are open from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. If you don't know where your polling location is, visit the city's website at newtonma.gov and check under elections. If you'd like to be part of the coverage, post your pictures and questions on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram using the hashtag #NewTVDecision2019. We'll see you on Tuesday night. Massachusetts State Senators Cynthia Cream and Jason Lewis visited Newton North High School to talk about the newly passed Student Opportunity Act and how it will benefit students statewide and in Newton. Massachusetts consistently ranks among the top states for K-12 education, yet a highly ambitious new bill from Beacon Hill, the Student Opportunity Act, intends to devote an additional $1.5 billion to public schools over the next 7 years. On Tuesday, October 22nd, Newton North welcomed the two authors of the legislation, State Senator Jason Lewis of Winchester and State Senate Majority Leader Cynthia Cream of Newton. Mayor Ruth Ann Fuller, as well as school committee officials from Newton and Brookline, were in attendance. The bill, Senator Lewis emphasized, would increase funding and provide additional support for low-income schools and students.
We recognize, this isn't just about spending more money, it's about making sure that those funds are really going to make a difference in providing a quality education for all students in all districts. And we really want that previous slide that had those persistent and troubling achievement gaps. We really want to try to, finally, I would hope we could completely close those, but at least let's make progress on narrowing those achievement gaps. And we know from a lot of research that what lies behind those achievement gaps is really opportunity gaps, that there's just not the same access to opportunity. And so we have to increase those opportunities for our kids, particularly in our gateway cities, low-income communities, immigrant communities, so that they have the opportunity to really achieve at their full potential.
While lawmakers in Newton and Brookline lauded the legislation and celebrated its progressive direction, they requested additional information on revenue streams and wanted to know how much the bill would cost taxpayers from higher income districts. Here's Mayor Fuller.
The vagaries of your and I know why your hands are tied, but just saying it's going to be more, if you can even tell us the floor, not the ceiling, anything more specific than you can offer, and the sooner the better, even if you say there's a lot of uncertainty and don't, we're grasping for some hard data, and waiting till January, February, March is really problematic.
The senators declined to discuss specifics, mostly for lack of explicit data, but nonetheless, school officials in both towns expressed support for the bill. Newton Superintendent David Fleischman appreciated the bill's egalitarian vision and was excited to welcome state support for low-income Newton students and school transportation.
I think local districts who can afford to pay more or support their students, we should be doing that. Obviously, we need state funding as well, because we have students in need here who are low income, who are English learners, and so the additional funding will help, as will the additional transportation funding for our students in special education. That's something that we've needed support in for a while, and so I'm happy they included that in the bill.
Senators Lewis and Cream will continue making their case to Massachusetts education officials as the bill, which passed through the state Senate unanimously, moves to the Massachusetts House of Representatives. Ethan Plotkin, Newton News, Newtonville. The Farm Grill and Rotisserie held a fundraiser on Sunday night to benefit the Carroll Center for the Blind. This unique fundraiser gave participants the opportunity to taste food while blindfolded to experience what it's like to be visually impaired. Since 1936, the Carroll Center for the Blind, located on the corner of Center Street and Cabot Street, has been supporting local kids, teenagers, and adults who are either vision impaired or transitioning to visual impairment. As part of this year's fundraising efforts, the Carroll Center teamed up with Farm Grill Restaurant on Needham Street to offer donors a unique dining experience. Participants donned visual occluders, aka blindfolds, and were guided through a multi-course Greek feast with the help of Maura Mazaka, one of the center's visually impaired instructors.
Bring it behind the fork and start cutting a semicircle around to cut what we consider a bite-sized piece.
Alex Iliadis, chef and owner of the Farm Grill, was first introduced to the Carroll Center after his favorite school teacher became visually impaired. Iliadis and his team delivered course after course of delicious wine and food. First, a chopped Greek salad, followed by a traditional lemon chicken rice soup called abgo limono. The main course, beef and chicken kebabs, accompanied by moussaka, rounded out the savory portion of the meal. For the grand finale, diners enjoyed baklava and a delicious orange pie. The event was the first of its kind, but Carroll Center President Greg Donnelly seemed thrilled by the reception and looked forward to strengthening the partnership with Alex and the Farm Grill moving forward. He also emphasized the importance of the experience, noting that vision is a privilege that can vanish later in life.
So excited. We filled the room with a lot of generous people, and it's all about giving back. We give back to our clients. This restaurant is also supporting them through this event. So there's many individuals that, especially seniors, that can't afford services that might be funded by the state for younger children and adults. And so this is a great event, and our philanthropy through the Carroll Center and our commitment is to make sure no one is left behind. So we're committed that anyone that needs our care and services will always receive them. This experience was the first for me for, virtually dining in the dark. And you certainly use all your senses. You eat a lot slower, a little messier. But it really gives you a sense of accomplishment once you get through it. And that's virtually what we see in our clients on campus when they're learning new skills. When you go blind or you're vision impaired and you're losing your vision, it's really a traumatic loss. It's an adjustment to that vision loss. And those with sight often take it for granted. Our eyesight is very fragile and we can lose it at any time. So an event like this is great spirit and fun, but also we need to think of those that are in need, including potentially us in the future of experiencing vision loss.
Sunday night's blind tasting proved the Newton community's commitment to service. It also finally confirmed what all of us already knew, that beef kebabs, tzatziki, and baklava are delicious regardless of visual ability. Ethan Plotkin, Newton News, Newton Highlands. Founded in 1959, the Newton Chinese Language School celebrated its 60th anniversary this past weekend, with many local officials recognizing the school for preserving and sharing Chinese culture with the community. Here's more from the celebration.
欢迎大家来到牛顿精文学校60周年生日。If you're looking for opportunities to serve,
participate in the Parents Council and our support education program.
The body of families and just seeing the community that your school generates is marvelous.
我们董事长已经把官方的话说完，我就说两句私房话吧。首先我想再一次向我们所有牛津松林校的这个师生领导和家长表示我最衷心的感谢。
目前是全美州立学校协会基金会的董事长。
60年，老一代从青春到白发；60年，新一代桃李正芬芳。我们欢迎您。
Chinese School, the 60th anniversary celebration. Thank you for your help.
Invite Ms. Peapon, the Massachusetts House of Representatives. She has represented youth since 1995. And let's welcome Ms. Peapon.
So I'm so grateful that you're all here. I'm grateful to be here to celebrate this wonderful occasion. Thank you.
This is just amazing. 60 years. Look at that, 1959, bringing your passions and energy. And I'm so pleased 60 years ago, or I'm guessing it was 61 years ago, somebody had the foresight to pick Newton. We're so pleased that you've been embedded in our community. On behalf of all of our residents, I, Ruth Ann Fuller, Mayor of the City of Newton, hereby proclaim October 12th, 2019 to be the Newton Chinese Language School Day in the City of Newton. Congratulations.
Performance. I mean, I was right up here in the front row, and it was just spectacular. The colors and so beautiful, the performances. And I just want to say to Anping for always, he's so wonderful at welcoming all of us into your community. And I love participating in your events. The food is spectacular, and the cake is amazing, as Mayor Fuller noted. And I hope there's dumplings on the menu.
You should have told me a little bit earlier, so we'll make sure there'll be dumplings. We were so glad. And Newton, 60 years, we've always been using the Newton Public School building, so this is tremendous support. Without support, I doubt we can stay in Newton for 60 years. And for over 40 years, we've been at the Newton Day Middle School. So let's take this opportunity to give a warm thank you to Newton School Committee, Newton School Department, and the Newton Committee. Let's give a warm.
I'm Lee Norton, the Ward 2 Councillor of Newton, to join us today. So I want to invite her to give us a few words for tonight.
Elected, I had the opportunity to tour the school and see what an incredible benefit it is for the folks who attend and for the wider community. It's not just academics, it's dance, it's athletics, it's really this amazing magic that happens every Sunday.
Think it's impossible to have fun while composting? Well, guess again. Start with your Halloween pumpkin. Don't trash it, come with the whole family and smash it. Bring your pumpkin and candy to the War Memorial Circle behind City Hall on Saturday, November 2nd from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and have some fun smashing it before it goes off to the compost pile and becomes dirt to grow next year's patch. You can also donate your leftover Halloween candy to Treats for Troops to let our deployed service members feel connected to home, or you can donate it to me, either way. The United India Association of New England will be celebrating Diwali in Newton on November 2nd from 3 to 5 p.m. at Newton South High School. This will be a cultural show to celebrate the biggest holiday in India, the Festival of Lights, known as Diwali. It will be very colorful and vibrant with dances, music, art, poetry, food, fashion, and fun from all over India. Visit unitedindia.net for more information. Do you have any extra books lying around or perhaps in search of a new book to read? The Neighborhood Book Share is happening on Sunday, November 3rd from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. at La Aroma Cafe in West Newton. Grab a few books you'd like to share and take a few new books home with you. You may bring up to 5 gently used books to donate. All extras will be packed up and brought to the Friends of the Newton Library, and more than words. The Land Use Committee got their first glimpse as to what the next possible marijuana shop will look like and how it will affect the West Newton community. Here's a highlight of the presentation from the recent meeting.
From a procedural standpoint, Ascend has been working with city officials on the proposed facility since March, when we presented to the Mayor's Host Community Agreement Advisory Group. Ascend was selected to receive an HCA, as the agreements are called, which was executed with the city in July. Next slide, please. The site is situated at the intersection of Cross Street and Washington Street. It's in a Business 2 district, which permits marijuana establishments by special permit, and the site contains 25,036 square feet. Next slide. The intent is to renovate the existing building, former home of Beacon Hill Athletic Club. Next slide. The site meets the requirements set forth in section 6.10.3 of the zoning ordinances. It is 0.9 miles away from Garden Remedies at 697 Washington Street, which is a greater buffer than the 1/2 mile as specified in the ordinance. The site is part of an established commercial district, easily accessible by car and strategically situated to serve West Newton without being right in the heart of the village. In its existing configuration, which is a little hard to see, this parking lot contains 32 parking spaces. The number of parking stalls has been maximized, and the parking lot contains only asphalt. The curb cut to enter the site is on Washington Street, and the cross street curb cut is exit only. In this rendering, you'll see that the proposed configuration also reserves the Washington Street curb cut for enter only, and cross street will be exit only. Matt Skelly looked long and hard at a variety of possible circulation configurations prior to determining that, in his opinion, this layout with 2 curb cuts is the safest option for drivers. Matt's traffic assessment was peer-reviewed by the BSC group for the city, as well as by members of the city's transportation division. In its memorandum dated October 11th, the Planning Department notes that the circulation has been reviewed by the Department of Transportation, who found the design to be the best alternative for egress and ingress. Allowing 2-directional traffic at the Washington Street driveway would create additional conflicts for cars turning onto Washington Street, given the proximity to Cross Street and adjacent driveways. We met with Cross Street residents on a variety of occasions to discuss circulation as well as landscaping in the parking lot. Ms. Cabral met with a group of neighbors on May 30th, and our team met with neighbors on July 10th and July 30th to discuss the proposed site layout. We understand that the neighbors are concerned with the curb cut on Cross Street, but we can't disregard the opinions of all the traffic and safety professionals with whom we've been consulting. We did make it clear to the neighbors that we would abide by the city's recommendation on this point at the end of the day. And I should also note that we held a broader community outreach on July 18th as required by the Cannabis Control Commission. From an aesthetic perspective, our revised layout plan reconfigures the existing parking in order to allow for substantial landscape screening around the perimeter of the parking lot. There are now 27 parking spaces on site, which is still more than that required by the zoning ordinance. We propose a variety of ornamental trees and low shrubbery around the parking lot's perimeter, as well as a 4-foot-high perimeter ornamental fence. The objective is to comply fully with the screening requirements as set forth in Section 5.1.9. A privacy fence will run along the rear of the site in accordance with the request of the abutter to the north. That will be white vinyl. To discourage customers from making a right-hand turn when they leave from onto Cross Street, that curb cut has been angled, as you can see, to facilitate only left-hand turns. The entrance to the building will be from Washington Street, and there will be a separate exit directly into the parking lot, which you'll see better on the next slide. In order to comply with Newton's ordinance, a marijuana establishment must not exceed 5,000 square feet. Ascend is only leasing the portion of the building which is shown in the darker salmon on this slide, 4,985 square feet. The remainder of the building will remain vacant, and any future use of same would require an amendment to the special permit that we're seeking. Next slide, please. Customers will enter the site via Washington Street and exit by a separate door right into the parking lot. This will be an adult use only facility, not a medical facility. Therefore, in accordance with state regulations, only patrons who are 21 and over with a validly issued state ID will be permitted to enter. The facility will feature 6 point-of-sale stations and additional areas where customers who have placed their orders online may pick up orders.
When reviewing the request, the council should consider whether the site is in an appropriate location, whether the neighborhood will be adversely affected, there will be nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians, access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved, whether literal compliance is impracticable due to the nature of the use, size, width, depth, shape, or grade of the lot, or that such exceptions would be in the public interest or in the interest of safety or protection of environmental features. There are additional criteria when considering the marijuana retailer. They pertain to site design, trash areas, impact on abutters, location of the proposed retailer, and traffic. Additional criteria include the design of the building to be compatible with others in the area, accessibility, access to regional roadways and public transportation, readily monitored by law enforcement and other code enforcement personnel, and whether hours of operation will have no significant adverse impact on nearby uses. The city engaged a third-party firm to conduct a peer review of the petitioner's traffic review letter submitted with their application. They identified several areas that need further study and information, and the petitioner expects to have those responses by October 18th. Lastly, outstanding items include responses to the peer review, location of the ADA stalls in the crosswalk. The stalls are in compliance, however, the crosswalk is close to the site and the entrance to the site. Lighting, we've already discussed that, and also withdrawal of the unnecessary relief.
So I just want to put a couple more comments in, because I made just that first comment about appointment only. I'm just glad to hear that that's something that is potentially acceptable, especially in the early stages. I think that's very important to address some of the concerns that have been raised and to really see how it works. I do think that I'd like to have a more full discussion about the layout. That's a number of different issues have been raised about that. The community has raised their plan, which has, I think, some advantages. The other point that's been made is about that other access if the building were to have that part demolished. And then the one other piece of this is it was mentioned by a number of speakers that before Beacon Hill Athletic started using the cross street, that they weren't using that cross street exit and they were using Washington Street for in and out. So I wonder how that worked, whether there was do we have any history on that as far as whether they changed using that because it wasn't working or whether it worked just fine. And then just finally, I want to thank everyone for being respectful of each other and the time, and I do apologize that we kind of truncated your presentation, but I think that you ended up getting, hopefully, the points out. I also just want the public to understand, and this was briefly mentioned by Councilor Cody, the way that marijuana establishments currently go is they go before the mayor and the mayor's administration first to get a host community agreement. That sometimes can take months, and it's only when after that has been approved that the city council gets the petition, and this is our first opportunity to get it. So even though this might seem like it's been going on a long time to some of you who might have been in conversations with the petitioner, certainly it seems like it's been going on for a long time. I'm sure for the petitioner who's been dealing with the city, this is our first crack at it, so that's why we're kind of getting up to speed on it, and this is really when we're going to be trying to start sorting out these issues.
That's it for this week's Newton News. Don't forget to set your clocks back 1 hour on Saturday night at 2 a.m., lest you miss kickoff for the Pats game on Sunday. And if you missed any of this week's newscast, you can watch it online at newtv.org. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you for our live Newton election coverage on Tuesday. And if you missed that, we'll see you same time, same place on Wednesday night. I'm Ethan Plotkin. Thanks for tuning in.
Newton News was brought to you in part by the Village Bank. Your village, your bank.
Crossing a finish line, high-fiving a teammate, performing in front of an audience, going to an overnight camp, going out to dance and celebrate with your friends. These are all kinds of opportunities that it's easy to take for granted. But without Newton Athletes Unlimited, many people with disabilities would not have those opportunities.
I have a lot of friends here, a lot of friends, and people I went to school with, people I went to college with. They've seen me as a role model, they've seen me as a leader.
Athletes Unlimited is important for Ben because it is a real anchor in his life. He's doing fun things with all of his friends, being independent, like his brother.
I think Athletes Unlimited is important to the city of Newton because it speaks to the whole concept of inclusiveness. It says we are not going to separate people because of their skill sets, we're going to unite them.
I do swimming, ice skating, horseback riding, track, yoga, camp. You get to see the same faces, or maybe new faces.
I think that in any community, people want to feel that they're accepted. And one of the things that happens at Athletes Unlimited is everybody, whether you're a volunteer or whether you're an athlete, you feel 100% accepted for who you are. What it means to my son is that he truly gets to live his life without limits.
Everybody works together as a team. There's no I in team. I want my teammates to perform their absolute best.
The high fives, the hugs, the connection that is so clearly there, that is so powerful.
Athletes Unlimited has been a big part of my life. It's been
empowering,
inclusive, proud, game changer.
I'm very happy.
It provides the vision, provides the support that our city needs to put on world-class activities for individuals with disabilities.
I love Athletes Unlimited because it helps me to live a long, healthy life.